Chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, John McCAIN. He's in Phoenix this morning, where it's a lot warmer than it is here in Washington. Senator, let me just ask you about this deal. Do you think the Senate would possibly shut down, cut off funds to the Department of Homeland Security with the country facing what it's facing right now?
I don't believe we will. We now have an exit sign, and that is the federal court decision saying that the president's actions unilaterally are unconstitutional. And I think we've got a great argument to the United States Supreme Court where it will go, because 22 times the President of the United States said it was unconstitutional for him to take the action that he had decided to take. So I believe we've got an option there that we should pursue. I'd love to be a friend of whoever is taking this case all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. So I think that's the best way that we can resolve this. But have no doubt, I am angry, as are my constituents in a border state, that the President of the United States would unconstitutionally issue the executive orders that he did.
Well, I understand that, and I understand your position on that, but I mean, the idea that the government might actually shut down, that the Senate would go along with that, I take it you are going to oppose that, even though some of your Republicans do want to do that.
I do oppose it, and I remember the last time we shut down the whole government, this would obviously be Homeland Security, the last time we shut down the whole government, we turned away 600,000 visitors to our national parks here in Arizona. I don't want to see that movie again.
You just heard Jay Johnson talking about the terrorism summit. Did you come away from that summit, I mean, you weren't there, but did you come away from it feeling that the United States has a strategy to fight these terrorists?
When we refused to call them what they are in the beginning, no. Look, ISIS has to be defeated first. They have to be defeated. And with all due respect to the Secretary, it's not a phenomenon, these rising ISIS and al-Qaeda threats. They're a natural outgrowth of a successful terrorist organization that is now the largest and richest and most powerful we have ever seen on earth in our history. And these other terrorist organizations imitate them because nothing succeeds like success. And we have no policy or strategy to defeat them. And that's what's terrifying about it.
You know, some of the president's critics say there's just kind of a disconnect, not just between the White House and the Pentagon or the White House and other agencies, but just kind of throughout the government. I mean, the idea that you would not invite the director of the FBI to a summit on terrorism, I mean, strikes me is sort of unusual. And then last week, there was this incident involving the Pentagon, and that is that there was a briefing given by the military on the offensive we have planned against ISIS. They went over the troop numbers. They talked about the timing. I know immediately after, you and Senator Lindsey Graham put out a statement and said, when did we start announcing things like this before they happen? Then, after you said that, then it turns out the White House says, well, nobody told us about this, basically. I guess my question is, what's going on here?
That's my question, too. And, you know, everybody knows that Mosul has to be retaken, and it has to happen first because it's the second largest city in Iraq for a whole variety of reasons. But we didn't, in shock and awe, describe how we were going to do this. This spokesperson described how, when, where, what forces, and that is obviously could put the lives of Americans as well as the people we are asking to fight in greater danger if we telegraph everything about our plans to ISIS. So I just don't get it. I don't think when we decided that we need to go to Europe and World War II that we were going to tell the Nazis exactly when, where, and how we were going to land. But it's just very unfortunate.
Do you have you heard back, I guess I would say, from the White House since you asked them what was going on? I know you and Senator Graham wrote that letter to them. Have you heard back from them?
No, we haven't, and I'm not holding my breath.
Let me talk to you a little bit about Ukraine. It sounds like things are getting even worse there. How do you read what's happening there, and what do we need to do now?
I believe that the German Chancellor and the President of France legitimized for the first time in 70 years the dismemberment of a country in Europe. It's shameful. Vladimir Putin has not paid any price. Even the ceasefire was violated until he achieved his objective of that vital rail link. He'll pull back some now, and the next will be Mariupol so that he can establish a land bridge to Crimea. And honestly, it's terrible. The Ukrainians aren't asking for American boots on the ground. That's not the question here. They're asking for weapons to defend themselves, and they are being slaughtered, and their military is being shattered. This is a shameful chapter. I'm ashamed of my country, I'm ashamed of my president, and I'm ashamed of myself that I haven't done more to help these people. It is really, really heartbreaking.
What do you think can be done now?
Oh, we can give them, to start with, we should give them weapons with which to defend themselves. There are Russian tanks in eastern Ukraine, Bob, that they have no weapon to fight against. They have, some of the best Russian special forces are there, and they will continue this aggression for as long as they can get away with it. And it's not just the military side, but economically, they're on the verge of collapse as well. Vladimir Putin wants Ukraine not to be part of Europe, and he is succeeding in doing so. He's putting enormous pressure on the Baltics, not to mention Moldova, and continued occupation of Georgia as well. This is really a dark chapter in the history of our alliance.
Well, I'll say this, Senator, I've known you for a long, long time, interviewed you many, many times. I've never heard you say, I'm ashamed of my country, which you just said.
And I'm ashamed of myself.
Senator, it's always good to have you. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
We'll be back.